Alrighty folks, this is Lurch from Ireland Gaming and welcome back to another episode of From the Depths. I hope everyone had a great Christmas and Santi was very kind, and whoever doesn't celebrate Christmas, I hope you had a great day anyway. But I'm back and I have been playing over just in a little bit of my downtime with these suicide drones, like Kamikaze drones, and this particular one is called the Oka, or the Oka B1, and it is by a guy called God Uranus, who is a sort of a fairly well-known guy on the forums, and he's went ahead and took Mad1's AI code, had a little bit of a shufty through it, and dug out some of the more interesting code to come up with this. Well, I say more interesting, it's all really cool, but you know what I mean. This is specifically designed to crash into stuff, and I approve of this. These little suicide drones have a very interesting concept behind them. Now, rather than using explosive ammo barrels, which is something I tried out before and had a little bit of luck with, I was using harpoons in that case as well to make like harpoon mines. But this particular design seems to be very effective. Rather than using your standard old explosive blocks, we're using 500mm cannon shells. Oh yeah! Now, with the price of the gauge stuff being so expensive, this guy weighs in at over nearly 23,000 RP, lots and lots of metal costs, 33.5k metal, and this is something that's designed to crash into something else, so you really want to be doing an awful lot of damage with that little bit of metal to make sure that these guys pay for themselves. So I kind of went ahead and developed this idea a little bit further, trying to trim some of the price off on these little drones, and I have two other examples that I'm going to show you now in a wee second, and after that I think I'm going to go ahead and build another one just to show how you go about building one of these. But a really cool thing about this code, I mean, there are some configuration options. There's a really nifty sort of like a swarm mechanic where if you have more of these ships out on the go at the same time, you can they'll each select an individual target and go and bomb a different target, which is really cool. Although it's still kind of in experimental stages, it doesn't seem to be working 100% of the time, but you can put the blueprint name of this in, of the ship that the Lua code is on, and it will pick that ship and give it a flight itinerary, and it'll go and do its particular flight path, and then it'll give another flight itinerary to someone else. So yeah, it allows you to sort of spread out the targets a little bit. But as I'm going to be going ahead and building one of these guys anyway to go over the concepts, I will just show this little guy in action. We'll hop out of build mode, we'll hop into the character and go, whee! You are going to have a job to do very shortly. So the way that these things are programmed, which is very clever, this guy has a big ass thruster, but you might notice he's not going very fast. The drones are programmed to go at 10% thrust until they have a target, and at that stage they'll ramp up and go at really fast speed. So let's get something in to blow up. I've been blowing up bastions typically because they're not huge, they're sort of a smaller target, a little bit more difficult to hit, and it allows me to sort of tune the ships a little bit better. Now, this guy has been triggered and he should fire off. There he goes, full tilt, goes to the target, down you go, and pow! Now that is something that is annoying because it seems to reset the thing to your character whenever it goes. Oh wow, it one-shot the bastion! Oh, that's badass. Look at the big ass hole in the top. That's pretty cool, right? So yeah, that's God Uranus. Sorry, I hate pluralizing names that end in S. That's his attempt at this little thing, and I am going to show you my first attempt at making something similar. So I will be right back with my first little design, the Boombox Mark 1. And here we have the Boombox Mark 1. It's maybe not quite as pretty as God Uranus' attempt, but it does the trick. This is basically exactly the same thing. It's got more or less identical parts in it. It's got 2 clips, 4 feeders. I think he had more feeders on his actually, and it's essentially the same design, all rejiggered about. I actually even stole his engine because that's a perfect design for this little thing. It's just an engine block. That's a cylinder. It's shrinky things. A cylinder with 2 carbs. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Very, very simple. One thing I noticed whenever I was toying with the idea is thrusters are probably one of the most expensive parts of this entire build after the cannon. Now the cannon is obviously, I think the cannon costs about maybe 7,000 or 8,000, and then the customizer is going to be another 3k or so. So that's a large part of your cost, but a large thruster or a large jet engine is 4,500, and this is only 4,700. So I went with 3 of them instead of one big one. It like quarters the cost nearly. No, it's about a third of the cost. But that leads to a little bit of a problem with this particular Lua code. And the problem is, with so many less engines, it doesn't have enough thrust to get itself into the air because it cuts the thrust down to 10%. So what you have to do is, oh, I just realized this has to be updated. This was just called the Boombox before. That blueprint name just allows the multi-targeting thing to work correctly. The variable you're looking for, and this isn't annotated anywhere. Oh, hello. It is. I'm blind. I just spotted it there. Thrust low speed. This is the low speed setting that it's on, and this is typically set to 1. And that is very, very, very slow. But seeing as we're using only 3 baby engines, we're going to want to put this up to actually probably, say, 4 or 5. Just enough to give it enough thrust to get into the air and stay in the air. Because there's no point launching these from the water. That would suck. So let's just save this guy quickly. Save over Boombox Mark 1 so that we've got all the code changes there. And I spent really quite a lot of time with this guy trying to get it to fly the way that I wanted it to. And it was a real pain because I find these little small aircraft drone fighter things are so sensitive. So you have to be very, very careful about how you place your control surfaces, and a lot of the time I find it's down to trial and error in how you get everything flying. At one point, because this thing was so inaccurate, I actually put a propeller on the back so that whenever it inevitably crashed into the water beside the ship, it could at least make that little push for the last sort of 5-10 meters or so. But let's get something on the go here, and we can show it again blowing up. And there's a Bastion. He's on his way. Pretty smooth flight. And oh, sweet. Let's get up here. Where are you? Come on. Oh, there it is. It didn't take the AI out, but that is not an inconsiderable hole, and it's already started being repaired again by their air tentacles or repair bots. So these things are pretty effective. I mean, whenever you think about it, that ship is 450k. We destroyed about maybe a quarter of it there, took out a turret, which is a very, very expensive piece of hardware, and all for the cost of that little teeny drone. And that first drone that I've got, let's get rid of this guy and load another one in, is a whopping 16.5k. So I managed to drop about 5,000 off the cost of God Uranus version, and that makes them a little bit more efficient with exactly the same payload, which is lovely. So as long as you're sort of firing these guys at a ship that you have potentially like a really high damage output on, like, you know, capital ships, bulwarks, kingsteads, anything really, really big, then these things can actually really, really pay off. They can do a whopping amount of damage in one smack, as long as they get to the target. Bear in mind, these aren't missiles. You can shoot them down. Well, you can shoot missiles down too, but you know what I mean. As long as they get to the target, they are potentially going to do a shit ton of damage. And I think we easily did more than 16.5k damage on that guy, just taking out the turret. So yeah, it's something. It's really cool. So next we're going to move on to the Boombox Mark 2, which is a slightly different variant of this guy. And I'll be right back. So this is the Boombox Mark 3, and it has a slightly bigger payload. I went with 3 clips this time. I was actually thinking of trying to reduce the gauge and see if like running with 4 gauges or something like that would have been better, and then carrying a much bigger clip payload. But I sort of figured out that by taking away the gauges, you really, really hamper your damage, and you don't lose out on like reload speed and cooldown like you do with a normal 500mm cannon. There is no payoff there. So we just want to get as many shells to the target, exactly where we want them, as quickly as possible. And just, I figured, add an extra clip, see what happens. It's an extra big boominess. And I made this guy considerably longer. Well, I say considerably, it is extremely compact. One thing I forgot to mention about the guy's script is it needs to have a hydrofoil. And he uses the hydrofoil angle to store data as a variable. It's really clever. So yeah, you have to have a hydrofoil on somewhere on the ship. But that's all explained in the forum thread about the Lua script, and I will be linking that in the description. But again, this is the same engine, only orientated slightly differently. We've got our exhaust here, we have 4 ammo barrels, and that's enough to get most of this loaded in one go. And we have 4 engines this time, and the gauge going right down the middle. But because we have the extra payload, well, it does a little bit more damage. I actually managed to get this thing flying really quite well, and while it doesn't appear to be at the minute, it has a really smooth flight path, which admittedly makes it a little bit easier to shoot out of the sky, which isn't so good. But anyway, let's get this guy on in action, and we'll get to see him sort of blowing stuff up. Now we'll go with the Bastion again, so that we know sort of everything's going to be working effectively. And are you serious? This has been known to happen occasionally. It gets stuck there. Well, that ain't so good. Well, what I've been doing is occasionally just going up the set. Oh man, it's pushing the Bastion over. That's awesome. That is awesome. Take that. We've got our own ram. Who needs to blow it up when you can just turn it upside down? That's brilliant. Okay, while they're sort of dancing there, let's get another one on the go, just so you can fly in and see what's happening to these guys. The thrusters are going to cut out now. You're totally upside down. That's amazing. You missed 2? Seriously? Oh wait, hold on, they both went up. Yeah, that's a bit of a hole. So yeah, these little suicide drones, they're a little bit awkward, I'll admit. You obviously have to keep remaking them, but with like a sub-vehicle spawner, you could probably spawn a whole bloody load of these and do really quite a lot of damage with like an alpha strike type thing. I'll do a very brief montage, because these are essentially the same thing happening over and over again. It's fly over target, fly into target, explode. Very simple, but I'll show you what they can do to like something like a bulwark. And for example, I mean, a bulwark costs nearly 5 million RP, which is quite a lot. These guys cost 16,000 RP. How many of these guys fits into one bulwark? Quite a few, isn't it? And having tested them, about 8 of them will completely disable a bulwark. Not completely kill it, but disable it. Anyway, before we get to a montage, I figure, you know, I've made a practical one, and I've improved upon the practical one, so there's a little bit better with a little bit more payload for around the same cost. The Boombox Mark II is 1642, 1658. Very, very little bit a difference in the cost, but it is more efficient because it's got a bigger payload. So it's potentially got a higher damage output, and that's a good thing. But anyway, we will get on with building a new one. If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. And let's build an 8-meter version, I think, to really blow the crap out of stuff. I'm thinking something like an Intercontinental Missile. I like the sound of that. So let's start building something like that. Okay, let's start out and get something that's roughly, you know, quite long. We're going for broke here. This isn't going to be sensible in any way, shape or form, so let's just make it really long and stupid. We want to have an engine at the back. We want to have a big pile of explodey bits at the front, a couple of ammo boxes, probably need quite a few ammo boxes, and I think a big dirty thruster on the back, something to really get things moving. And I think we'll make it look a little bit like a missile. What do you think? Missile? Yeah, proper missile, with proper explosive warheads. Maybe, you know, 2 500mm 8-meter shells completely filled with HEs, times 4. Sounds good to me. Anyway, let's get on with it. Okay, so that looks more like a pencil than a missile, but it should definitely explode when it gets there. Oh my god, I mean, look at the amount of HE in this. Where's the bottom? The actual shell customizer thingy. Come here, you. Talk about the damage. So, yeah, I've mixed the HE and the flak warheads up. I've added a couple of flaks because, you know, you get diminishing returns as you add more and more high explosives, so you might as well start your diminishing scaling fresh again with flaks. Flaks do like less damage, they do literally half the damage, but I think they also have a lower armor pierce value as well, so it's probably best to use less of these, but I've got a couple on the bottom here. That's an extra 2k damage. If I was adding all HEs here, we get close to it, but I don't know, I think I'm going to stick with the flaks. Got 4 flaks there, 1900 extra damage, and it gives you a fresh chunk of meter to work with. Anyway, I think it's nearly time to find out whether this thing actually flies, but first things, I need to get the code actually that needs to go into this, so I think I might have it still in the... I do! Hooray! Okay, so that's still on my clipboard, and this is the code. What are we going to call this? We'll call this the Boombox Mark 3, even though it looks like a missile. 3 dive distance. The dive distance is how far away from the target it starts to turn down and dive, so 200 should be okay. Anything else I need to change? We do have a speedy ass missile, like a big thruster on this, so this shouldn't be such an issue. Control, that should be okay. Let's set it to 2 just to give us a little bit more wiggle room in terms of lift and stuff. And squeeze a chair in. Squeeze a chair in at the back here. You sit there, you will. Brilliant. Now, moment of truth. Why are you not blast, did I save it? Did I forget to save it? I did. Why you no worky? Ah, yes, the code requires stuff. Say what's going on. Ah, of course it requires the name of the vehicle, so let's save it. Box Mark 3. Save vehicle as. Destroy all vehicles. Load the fella in again. Our son. Get him out of the water there as well. I have no water start for these, which is a bit of a problem. Now, why are you not going? Should work. Should totally be working. You have all of the things that allow you to do the worky thing. No, you don't. Did I put fuel on? I did. Where's my engine? Engine is on backwards. There we go. I hate it when that happens. I really wish there was a forward location for the to indicate what way is forward on the engines. But off we go. No, I don't want that to look like that. It looks silly. Oh man. Seriously? That looks daft as well. God damn it. I don't want to make it too much longer because otherwise you get it's too far away from this and it won't explode whenever we collide. I want it to be really close. That looks so stupid. Well, anyhoozle, let us find a target. This seems to actually fly really well for what it's doing. So let's hop off because we don't want to be standing on that when it goes off. Those are some big ass missiles, so let's get something big ass and stumpy to crash it into. Kingstead time! Now, are you going to be able to hit it? That is the question. Hopefully not. What are you doing? Why have you slowed down? Why have you stopped? It took a hit. Damn it. How did it lose everything? Right, I'm gonna get this guy on the go again. I'll be right back. So after a couple of minutes of troubleshooting and feeling like an idiot, I realised I had deleted the loot box whenever I replaced one of these with symmetry, and I also forgot to put an exhaust onto the engine, and the engine cylinder was overheating, which meant that we lost all power and it fell out of the sky. Fantastic design there. Anyway, this should be working correctly now, so let's hop you off. Hop off there. Turn this off. You're going to come back up, aren't you? You are, good. And let's find a bastion to blow up. Actually, no. Don't want a bastion. Let's get something bigger than a bastion. King's dead. Hope to God that this doesn't knock me out of the sky. Should have loads of extra thrust compared to what we had before. So, off you go. Come on, you. Hope it doesn't reset my camera whenever it gets close. Oh, slow down because of the collision. Come on, come on. Chug chug. Ugh. Oh, hello. It worked. That. Oh, well, okay, that did take a fairly big hole, but it doesn't seem to be much bigger than the other one. That sucks a bit. What if I did it so that it's all rams at the front and it gets deeper in before it explodes? I'm gonna tip. Okay, we have a couple of rams at the front now, other than the first one that I just put on for cosmetics. Let's see what happens this time. Oh, Mr. Kingstead, don't hit me, please. Coming down and slow down now. No, yep, there we are. Let's see what happens. If it even does anything different, or if it'll just blow up as soon as it hits the target. Instead, we cause problems. Oh, there we go. Oh! Actually being down oh my god. Holy crap. That did not work as intended, but it bloody well worked. They've got a new basement. If in so much as you can have a basement on a ship. Yeah, that's a pretty hefty explosion. I approve of that. That actually happened to me one time before when I was testing these guys. One of them, like the game chugged right at the second it was about to collide, and one of the Mark IIs got sort of wedged under the hull, like in here, and then it blew up. Like something else destroyed it, and it blew a massive, massive hole in the bottom of the ship. Very, very cool. So there, yeah, that's my the Boomboxes, and this is the Boombox Mark III. Now, the Mark III is obviously a little bit silly. It doesn't seem to have so much of an advantage over the other two, despite having nearly twice the cost. But it does look cool, and it looks a bit like a missile. But, yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to leave you with a bit of a montage showing these guys blowing up various different targets, and I want to say thank you to God Uranus for putting together that really nifty little piece of Lua code for it. It makes it a lot easier to do these. You can make them with the Mad Ones AI, and it just requires a little bit of the fiddling with the variables, but it's got a lot of like extra features that you don't need to actually do this, and this is a nice stripped down sort of efficient remake of the code that should make your little bombers really, really effective. So, like I say, I'm going to leave you with a montage. I really hope you enjoyed the episode. Any likes, subs, or comments are really, really awesome. I love hearing from you guys, and I read every single comment. As always, take it handy, and have a bloody good day.